Hey everyone, so today we're going to dig into a pretty wild piece of history. You might not believe it, but a super popular fashion trend, a fuzzy beaver hat of all things, completely changed a whole continent and the lives of everyone on it. So yeah, let's get into this incredible story of change.
I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? A hat changing the world? But you have to understand, hundreds of years ago over in Europe, hats made from beaver fur were a huge deal. They were waterproof and super stylish. So what if that one little fashion accessory was the spark that started a massive chain reaction right here in North America? Let's follow the clues and see what happened.
Okay, so our story really gets going with a massive trade. On one side, you've got the First Nations peoples who've lived on this land forever. And on the other side, you have the Europeans, who are just showing up. Let's take a look at what they were swapping.
Check this out. The First Nations peoples, who knew the land and the animals like the back of their hand, traded all these valuable beaver furs, and in return, the Europeans offer them something totally new: metal. Just try to imagine going from tools made of stone and wood to metal pots that don't break and super sharp knives. I mean, this was a total game changer.
But this new trade wasn't just about swapping some stuff. It was really like the very first domino in a long line. And once it tipped over, it set off a chain reaction that completely changed everyday life for a lot of First Nations peoples. And this shows you exactly how things changed. Trapping beavers pretty much became the new full-time job because the furs were worth so much. But that meant there was way less time for other things, like old traditions, hunting, and crafting. And pretty soon, communities started to depend on those European goods just to get by. A whole new way of life was starting.
All right, let's move on to the next domino, because this focus on furs led to some really serious problems. I mean, think about it. When one thing becomes super valuable, what happens? Right, people start fighting over it. And in this case, the fight was all about the land where the beavers lived.
Well, this timeline shows a really long and difficult struggle. As you can see, the Haudenosaunee and the French started fighting over who would control the fur trade. And that led to years and years of conflict. But after all that fighting, something pretty amazing happened. In 1701, a whole bunch of different nations came together and signed the Great Peace of Montreal, which was a really important agreement that finally ended the fighting.
But the fur trade brought something else with it. Something you couldn't see, something silent and incredibly dangerous. Something nobody could have possibly prepared for.
So to really get this next part of the story, we've got to talk about something called immunity. The easiest way to think about it is like a superhero shield that your body builds for itself. Every time you get a cold, your body learns how to fight off that specific germ. So the next time that same germ tries to attack, bam, your body's shield is ready to go.
So, here's the big question. What happens if your body runs into a germ that it has never ever seen before? Your superhero shield? Well, it just wouldn't know what to do. It wouldn't have a plan to fight back.
And that's exactly what happened. The Europeans accidentally brought over diseases like smallpox, germs the First Nations peoples had never encountered. Their bodies had no natural shield, no immunity at all. This sickness spread so fast, and it had a truly tragic and devastating effect. So many lives were lost.
You know, the changes from the fur trade weren't just about land or goods, they were also really personal. New families were formed when European traders and First Nations women got married. But often, when the traders went back to Europe, the mothers were left behind to raise their children all by themselves, in a world that was changing so fast around them.
Okay, let's talk about the final and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle, the beaver, the animal that was right at the heart of this whole story.
So with everyone trapping so many beavers for their fur, the beaver population started to shrink, like a lot. And that caused a whole new set of problems. For the environment, fewer beavers meant big changes to the rivers and forests they helped take care of. For people, it made the competition even more intense, as groups fought over the few beavers left, and it pushed trappers to go deeper and farther into new lands, just trying to find them.
Now, after hearing all of that, it's pretty easy to think this story has a really sad ending. But wait a second, because the story of the beaver is not over yet, and there's some really good news.
Today, things are totally different. People finally realize just how important beavers are. Animal protection groups and the governments in Canada have worked super hard to protect them. Now there are laws to make sure that beaver populations can stay healthy and grow strong again.
So I guess the biggest thing to take away from this whole story is that one thing, even something as simple as a fuzzy hat, can start a chain reaction with massive, unexpected effects. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What are the fur trades of our world today? What big changes are happening right now, and what kind of dominoes could they be tipping over for the future?